Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for your Introducing first, on his way through the interwebs, Kirby, the Voice, Alexander!
So freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome everybody to the Juice Pro Wrestling episode 136, Kirby's Adventure. That's right, the adventure of one Kirby, the Voice, Alexander. He is the voice of many wrestling promotions in the Chicagoland area, like Freelance Wrestling, Freelance Underground, Warrior Wrestling. You know, our hometown, our home base of Northwest Indiana, Black Label Pro. He does Galley Lucha. I'm sure you've seen him with AAW and many more promotions. But please, everybody, give a warm round of applause. Oh, yeah, dig it for Kirby Alexander. Kirby Alexander, what's up, brother?
Hey, fellas. Thanks so much for having me, man. Thanks for the intro there. I think you ticked all the boxes, except for maybe a couple old ones back in the day. Elite Pro Wrestling, Vanguard, VWAA, some IWA Mid-South in there as well. Did a couple King of the Death matches. But yeah, man, I've been around a little bit. I'm getting old.
You're seasoned. How long have you been doing the ring announcing now?
Pretty close to 15 years. I want to say somewhere between 13 and 15 years.
And how the hell did you break into that?
Out of nowhere, I was following the IWA Mid-South boards when they were used to run in this area really heavy.
Yeah.
And Ben Jordan was posting to the boards that they were needing a ring announcer for their show like this coming Saturday night for Elite Pro. And because the two were kind of related at the time, the Tomasellis were still working for IWA Mid-South. So there was a working relationship. And so I hit Ben up. I said, look, I have no actual experience doing this. I'm in radio. I was in radio at the time. I did promotions and marketing, but I also did a lot of voiceovers on like WCKG and such.
Nice.
So I told him like, hey, I've got the right experience. I'm used to using my voice, and long-time wrestling watcher, you know, for like 30 years at that point. And I said, put the two together and I'm your guy. And he's like, all right, show up, do the first show for free. If we like it, we'll bring you back. I did one match. I came back through the curtains and they said, you're hired. I was paid that night. And pretty much the rest is history. The next month, I show up and they go, oh, by the way, you're doing commentary tonight too. And the rest is pretty much history.
Now, that's a stark contrast, I mean, between announcing and commentary. You know, Lord knows me and Sretton have tried to do a drunken commentary.
Only two people that have successfully done it are you and Tony Schiavone. Nobody else.
Yeah, right.
Like nobody.
What did you find? I mean, what do you enjoy doing more? Do you get the bigger pop out of the announcing? Which, I mean, personally, if it was me, I would think, you know, that would be a lot cooler than commentary, because commentary is just, dude, it's constant. And if you're fucking dry and you ain't got nothing, then you can make a lot of things and people and situations fail, you know.
Go on. Yeah.
But just in your opinion, what do you enjoy more?
Yeah, there's certainly two very different animals. At this stage of my life, I'm all about the ring announcing. Mm-hmm. I prefer that. Most recently, even with Freelance Underground, we started that company off with a 3-person team. And it was myself and Jimmy Z and Sterling. And within 2 shows, I was like, they've got it. I'm pulling myself off. Like even on those 2 shows, I was fading myself out because it was just like, they've got it. And the 3-person show is hard to do, especially on the indies, unless you've got a really, really good setup. Right. Most indies try to do it with 2 microphones. So it's very, very difficult. So I faded myself out of that. So I was doing commentary as much as maybe 2 years ago, but was really starting to focus much more on the ring announcing. I also like the performing aspect, being in front of the crowd, being that hype guy, the guy that's, I'm the first guy you see, and I'm setting the crowd up, right? I'm getting you guys ready. I'm giving you energy. I'm taking your energy. I'm magnifying it. That's everything to me right now. I certainly enjoy doing the commentary, and for a long time I did both, and that was insane. So like almost my entire Elite Pro run, I did both, and I think through Vanguard as well. So I would be in the ring doing my thing, and I would run to the commentary station and join commentary already in progress and run right back up. And the craziest thing about that is here I am doing what you just said, trying to follow the match, trying to come up with all these nuggets of wisdom, and at the same time looking at my run sheet and memorizing all the statistics for the next person I'm going to announce. So it was really cool. It was cool and interesting, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
No, I'm sure that leaves. I mean, science tells you that there really is no such thing as multitasking.
Right.
I tend to disagree, but also agree just a smidgen, because that leaves a lot of room for error to open up.
That's why we're bad at everything, dude.
Yeah, I know, right? Because we're all ADD as hell, and we're like thinking about a million different things at once.
Perfect. This is true.
Yeah, so I mean, I can only imagine. I saw too when I was creeping on you on Facebook, Kirby. You do something.
Stop it.
Hell yeah, I did, brother. You do something with the White Sox?
I did. So I mentioned working in radio, and after I got out, I did radio for good 5 or 6 years, and I got really burnt out on it. It was a great gig, but it was very thankless. Doing promotions, I would come in on a Monday morning after having run like 3 or 4 huge promotions for like maybe Budweiser and Ticketmaster and who knows what, and it would never be, you did a great job yesterday. It would always be, do you have tomorrow ready? Is tomorrow ready to go? And I just got burnt out on it. I got so much free stuff. I didn't pay for food or CDs or movies. At any time in my desk, I had anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 worth of food gift certificates. But it was amazing. But at the same time, it became too much. And I had to try something new. And I had a buddy that was working for the White Sox at the time. And he brought me in as a seller for the 50-50 split. So the Sox split that they sell at the games, he brought me in as a seller for that. Within a couple of years, I was helping run that program. And then I also, after we won the World Series, we ran a program to the side of that where we actually gave away 3 of the rings. And I ran that solely myself. So that was my whole project for the White Sox, was running that. And
do you have a World Series ring from 05?
I do not have one. I have held them multiple times. Even during when we gave those 3 away, they dressed myself and 2 of my workers up in tuxedos and had us walk from center field to home plate and give them to the winners, just like we would have done to the players. So I got to do that as well. So yeah, I worked for the White Sox for about 5 or 6 seasons, and I worked for the Bulls as well. Did the same job over there. Yeah.
What'd you do over there? Same type of stuff?
Same thing. I came in as a seller for a minute, and I helped them run that program for a while, and then I ended up dancing for the Matadors, which was the all-male, all-fat dance squad for the Chicago Bulls.
You say all-male, all-fat?
Yes, absolutely.
He did.
Do they still exist? I want to try out.
No Tito Santana
2021 bubble.
They've been done for about 10 years. We did a reunion about 4 years ago. One night only, we all came back, but there was easily guys. I mean, I was in the 300s, but there was easily guys pushing 450, 500 pounds. And it was fully choreographed by the same choreographer that did the Lovables.
Oh, wow.
Putting us through our paces. It was great. It was. It got me all around the world. It got me to Greece. It got me to the island of Cyprus. It got me to LA for the first season of America's Got Talent. We did that.
Nice.
All for being fat and funny. It's not too shabby.
No,
And light
not
on your
too
feet.
shabby at all. What's that?
I actually lost so much weight from doing the first 3 years that by the fourth year I felt I was too small to be on the team.
It's like Menudo, kind of like, you're too old. Get the hell out of here.
Bring in the next fat guy.
Yeah, you're not fat enough anymore. What's that? You're trying to get healthy? Fuck off. Well, that's pretty fucking awesome. I mean, I know I can't speak for both of them yokels over there, but the Bulls and the Sox are two of my favorite teams. I mean, I got some of that 312. They came out with the White Sox beer this year, all black cans with the insignia on it. It's pretty dope. I got one of those in a Budweiser commemorative can overlooking me right now with the Hulkster. And then the Bulls. I mean, come on, if you're from Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area, and you didn't like the Bulls, and something's going on with you because.
Especially in the age where when I grew up during the time, to remember. It was insane. I'm 49 now. So, I grew up through all that amazing Jordan era.
Oh yeah.
All of them, both times.
I watched every one.
So did I.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. And, we actually, for the Bulls, we would actually run out on the court. Like we would be sitting on the edge of the court, and then as soon as timeout was called, we would run on the court. So we were like dodging around the players and stuff. So like we were out there with them. It was pretty cool. I mean, they would dunk, and like we would have balls flying at our face. And I'm not talking about the basketball. So no, it was pretty wild. And then with the White Sox, I would be in the tunnel. I would run into like Ozzie Guillen on a regular basis. It was good times, man.
Hell yeah, that's awesome, man. 2005 was a magical time too. Wow, dude, it's just that whole series and everything, and they almost had the perfect postseason. They only lost one game in that entire run.
Yep.
So wow, just super cool, man. I mean, and speaking of like going back and like previous, work environments, and which you've obviously just stated that you've been a part of some amazing organizations in Chicagoland, like. And we were talking about like how you got started in announcing and wrestling and shit, but what were you watching like as a kid growing up? Are you born and bred like Chicago native?
Yeah, so I'm actually from Northwest Indiana. I'm from Hammond, born and raised in Hammond.
I was born in Hammond myself.
For the first 30, maybe closer to 40 years, at least I think 38 years, about 37, 38 years in Hammond. So for me, the Civic Center.
AWA
shows, NWA shows.
Oh shit.
That's what I grew up on. I remember, sitting on the floor in front of the television, and for whatever reason, my first picture memory, like I know this isn't the first wrestling I saw, but whenever I try to think back, the picture that's in my head is JYD. Like for some reason, that's the first memory I have of professional wrestling is JYD on his hands and knees delivering that running headbutt. And then for me, going from there, I watched everything from AWA, NWA, USWA,
awesome.
Global. If it was on TV, and it was at that time, you had to like tune into some crazy channels, 32, and you had to have the bunny ears and everything.
Oh yeah,
to get it. But I watched everything. I was watching Baron Von Raschke on my television. I was watching the Von Erichs on my television, Road Warriors, the Freebirds. I was watching them on a weekly basis. I mean, you name it. I grew up during an amazing time. I still got to watch some of the Golden Age guys as they were getting older. So I got to see the Crusher. I got to see Dick the Bruiser. I saw Bruiser Brody. I saw Abdullah. I saw all those guys live at the Hammond Civic Center.
Wow, dude. I think
I saw the Sheep Herders before.
Yes, the Bushwhackers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, they were brutal back in those days, man.
Yeah, they were.
Absolutely.
And then Vince got him. He's like, "You're a fucking joke."
Yeah.
I saw
I want you to do this.
I saw the Long Riders versus the Sheep Herders, and I've seen a lot of stuff since, and that might still be one of the bloodiest messes I've ever seen.
And now this was at the Civic Center.
Yeah.
Man, dude, people listening around the world that don't know, like Northwest Indiana, USA. I mean, back in the day, I've heard stories about the Hammond Civic Center, and I'm talking about, and we're gonna get into like some of your musical tastes and stuff too. But I've heard bands, coming, big time bands like Kiss and Aerosmith and shit coming to the Hammond Civic Center. Now, the only thing I've experienced myself was I think I saw TNA run a show there that was unfortunately had like nobody there. In WWE when they were ending the ECW, the WWE CW brand, made a venture there. But man, just the history of that building and the shows that they've put on. I did not know. I wasn't really aware that they ran super cards like that. And shout out to our boy Kevin Brown we had on the show a couple weeks ago. When we were talking about like some of the shit he was going to, and it's around the same time period you're talking, these mega cards, like what you're saying, like guys you've seen, I'm sure you saw a card that was just fucking stacked to the gill that was, back then there really wasn't like a pay-per-view per se. It's for a house show. Essentially, it's a house show. It's just
on
it
one
blows my
show
mind.
I would see guys like Sailor R. Thomas, Tony Atlas, Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher, the Road Warriors, Larry the Axe Henning, Jerry Blackwell, Brody, Bundy, you name it. These were all on these.
You ever see Harley Race?
Man, it was absolutely. These shows were crazy stacked, and you talk about the notoriety of the Hammond Civic Center. I have a great story of that. I met Road Warrior Animal about 10 years ago now, and I had this story all set in my head that I was going to tell him about a night that I saw the Road Warriors when I was a really young kid at the Hammond Civic Center. And so I get up and it's my turn to talk to him. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Hammond. He's like, did you go to the Civic Center? Were you there the night they rioted and tried to kill us? I'm like, you just stole my story, man. Like, I was going to tell you that.
That's
but
great.
yeah, so that's like the first thing he heard Hammond, and the first place his mind went was to the Civic Center and the riot, because it was insane. The whole place erupted and tried to kill the Road Warriors.
Now, what was based around that? Like, what was the particular matchup or situation?
It was them versus Larry the Axe Henning and his son, who was just breaking into the business. Yes.
Cool Kurt. Was he cool Kurt?
It was cool Kurt Hennig, very, 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 very young baby face. And during the match, they did the spot where they had Kurt get caught up in the ropes, where his neck was in the ropes and he was hanging and kicking from the outside. And the Road Warriors just laid into him with chair shot after chair shot after chair shot, unprotected, of course, because that was the thing in the day.
Yeah.
And he was just, busted wide open, bleeding, and just the place just went nuts. They said they
love
had,
it.
And when he told it back to me, his side of it, he said they really had to run and leave the building. They had to flee for their lives because the place just attacked them as they were leaving the ring. You saw the stands like empty. You just saw like bodies, just the tunnel, so to speak, like where they would walk through the people. It just collapsed on them. It was pretty insane.
I love it.
Wow. That's amazing. And I imagine those shows back in the day. I mean, the Hammond Civic Center, it's not a small place. It's not a giant place. I mean, I would call it's just a good sized place to see any kind of event. Like, you have a great seat anywhere you're at. I know when I was there for TNA, I mean, this had to be like fucking 10 years ago, but we were up in the little bleachers and it was great. I mean, it was almost like you were sitting up front, but like I said, there was nobody there, unfortunately. So we just went down and sat in seats right next to ringside. It was crazy. But I mean, man, you think anybody's got back in those days, no one has like VH. How many people do you think had VHS recorders there?
Or anything?
None.
Just
That's what sucks.
Casual
about that,
concert
because,
fan, like watching a show like with a giant fucking camera.
well, you know what I mean. If there was some if they had it for, back in that day, they probably didn't give a shit about like tape library purposes or anything. But I mean, I would just I just love that old school, and I could just see it. Like, I could imagine, like, was it smoky in there back in the day, at the Hammond Civic Center, like it was saying, at the, what the hell, down in Texas for like WCCW at the Sportatorium or something. Cause I could see that.
It definitely had this, like, because it was an old gym. So it really had this feel to it. And it had, it had a smell to it like a gym. It smelled like a gym all the time. And because I mean, they ran everything there. I mean, so I would like 1 month I would see AWA. The next month I would see the circus. The Shriners ran there year after year after year. Nice. And then I would, and like you said, they would have concerts there. I saw Nazareth do a show there.
Yes, dude, I fucking love Nazareth.
Yes.
Dude.
So yeah, they just did. It was cool, but yeah, it just had this real feel to it. You said it was, like you said, it was just the right size. You could see from everywhere in the place, and the sound was also huge because everything just kind of blew up in that place. I don't think they even had the idea of sound back in that day of setting it up so that it was that way, but it just did. It just, everything sounded like gunshots, like, when they would, hit the ring or anything. It was beautiful.
Man,
I love it.
It's so awesome.
That old school shit, man.
Yeah. And all those old stories, like I say, I mean, to hear about something that's, I'm in Hobart, and that's Sren's in Cherville, something that's super close to where we're at and that I've been to, and just imagine like the history of this building and hearing these stories. That's why I'm so pissed that it's like, damn, man, I really wish there was some sort of video fucking footage. I mean,
yeah, as far as I remember, because I remember video cameras, like, home cameras coming out. I don't even believe that they were out yet. I don't think they existed. Certainly cameras did, like big TV cameras.
Right.
But I don't think people had personal video cameras yet at the age and stage that I'm talking about. But, if you're a Hoosier, we have a great Hoosier wrestler from that period. Wow, I just forgot his name.
That happens to me.
Son of a bitch! I had the story in my head. I was loading.
Long hair.
No,
Jimmy Valiant.
No. He did like a hillbilly gimmick.
Is it the guy we had on, Wallace?
Well, you're talking about Northwest Indiana. We're chock full of hillbillies. That's really narrowing it down for me.
Moose Cholak.
Okay, yes.
So Moose Cholak, I was probably, maybe 7-8 years old, and my dad, for whatever, knew Moose. Moose just used to hang out at all the bars in Hammond and stuff, so everybody knew him. And so we were leaving one of the shows and ran into Moose, and my dad's talking to him and such, and Moose takes his hand and wraps my entire head in his hand. So like his palm is on my chin and his fingertips are on the back of my neck. He entirely engulfed my head. And I was a fat kid as well as a fat person. Like I was like, this was no easy feat, but he totally engulfed my head. And it's one of my favorite memories of wrestling. But and he was just there to see the show that night. Like he wasn't even on the card.
Amazing. I mean, were those places packed for those shows?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To the gills.
Had open.
I'm laughing at the difference between Justin and I's interview styles. He asked, "Were those places packed?" I was going to ask, "How did his hand smell?"
Like cheese and doers,
beer cheese soup.
That's right.
Did that smell like?
Maybe a little.
Was
bit
that
of, what'd they drink back in the day? Stroh's.
Old style, yeah, Stroh's. Was that that Riot, the AWA in AWA?
Yes, I'm almost positive it was.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and yeah, there is a video from that match, but then there's an interview from Road Warrior Animal on that AWA Riot.
Right on. I'm gonna have to look back into that too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look it up, and everyone listening or checking out the podcast, look that up.
Yeah, and find us on Facebook because we'll post a link to that. So after you watch and listen and download this, like we know you're gonna do, you might as well just check it out.
Yeah, relive a piece of history, baby.
Yeah, you get an eyewitness account from Kirby himself, which is the best thing ever.
I want to see some of that old Nazareth shit, dude. I fucking get down with that, dude. I got that on vinyl, man. So who else did you see there, Kirby? Music wise, you see anybody else local?
I grew up watching. I was really, really, really into the like glam and sleaze scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So like New York Dolls, you like Sweet?
Absolutely.
I was just gonna say that.
What did you say after the Dolls?
Sweet.
Absolutely, yeah. So New York Dolls,
hit hard.
Honey Rocks, Sweet, T-Rex.
Yes,
like that's the
T-Rex.
early era of the glam stuff. And there was a lot of bands in Hammond, in the Hammond area that were doing it. There were bands like Tyrant's Reign. There's just a lot of guys doing that style back then. So I was really into the local scene. I started when I got to about 18, 20 years old, and that's when video cameras were starting to come out. I started shooting for bands. So I worked all around Chicago. Like I did shows at the
cool.
Thirsty Whale, Congress Theater, like shooting for local bands and such. Went on tour with a few different bands, like the Orphan Punks, went up and down like to New York and back and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a really fun scene. Chicago's always been a great scene, and it's been a great scene for like multiple styles of music. Like metal is amazing. Like I was also a metalhead, so like I went to the Aragon Ballroom and saw everyone there. Right, I saw Anthrax, Slayer,
Yes.
you name it. Doro Pesch's Warlock.
Oh, damn.
Wow.
You're fucking digging deep
That's
on that shit,
kick.
Bodie.
Dude, that kicks ass, man. Hell yes.
So,
I agree. Digging deep for sure.
I was definitely a metalhead from like, during those crazy eras from like 86 to 90. So
Yeah.
bands like Sabotage, Flotsam and Jetsam before Jason went and joined Metallica. Iron Maiden, of course.
Let me ask you real quick though. I probably know what you're going to answer, but
Yes,
are you a Diano man or no?
I love the Diano stuff. I do.
Me too. My favorite.
Bruce Dickinson is definitely my favorite because we had so much more of him.
right.
If we
And he's
would have
more
had an
polished.
equal amount of library, then it might go the other way. But the Paul Diano stuff, undeniably amazing. He had a band after that called Battle Zone, Paul Diano's Battle Zone.
Yeah.
They put out a couple albums; those were great. So yeah, I was into all that stuff. It was a good time to be into music because there was so much going on, and we actually had metal on the radio. Now you had to like lean against your wall and like lay upside down on the bed and put your legs
Yell Satan.
halfway out the window to like get a connection. But we had I think it was Laser 103.1 with Scott Loftus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we actually I heard stuff like King Diamond on the radio.
Wow.
I mean, who can say that? At one point we had radio like that in Chicago. So I grew up listening to stuff like that, like King Diamond and Merciful Fate, and
Yeah. Grandma.
Yeah. Oh, Merciful Fate. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I was so into metal that in Spanish class in like sophomore year, we had to do commercials. And this is really funny thinking back to this. I haven't thought about this in probably 30 years. I actually did a commercial as if I was announcing Ozzy coming to town in concert, but in Spanish.
Oh, can you
yes.
can you redo it?
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't remember.
I'd be like, oh, how about Ozzy Osbourne?
Ozzy Osbourne. Fútbol termino para internacional. Ozzy Osbourne.
But because I did that, the teacher thought I was a Satanist, thought I was a devil worshiper, and like would come right out with it too. I have eyebrows that just in all my life I've had eyebrows that just come up to little
Like James Mitchell
horns.
style?
Yeah, they look like horns on the edge. And she's like, "Oh, you're grooming your eyebrows to be horns because you worship Satan and you kill goats." And I'm like, "No, not really, but okay."
No, not really. Dude, that's the stigma most metalheads get. And me and Bodie, we're death metal guys.
Yep.
And I've had that shit, and I'm really musically. My range is it's out there. I'll go from Cannibal Corpse to Rick Astley to Frank Zappa. To,
Tears for Fears.
Yeah,
That's
I had a
exactly.
big Zappa age, man. I was into the Mothers of Invention for a good couple years.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we're gonna touch on that in about 5 seconds.
Okay.
But it's just that stigma around metal people that is, and Bodie, you can attest to this, that, you know, we're the most brutal people to like be around, and we're really hateful, and we fucking worship Satan, and we're all racist and,
of course,
and drug addicts. When it's, dude, we're like,
I forgot you guys are both pieces of shit.
That too.
Keep going.
Yeah. Yep. We're the nicest community that you could ever be a part of.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what my wife
all
said.
These fests and shit together, dude, and it's like a big family where everybody
reunion.
comes together. Can I help you with some? Most metal people I know will give you the shirt off their back, you know?
Yep. Got a house to kick at. If you have nowhere to go, we'll crash here. Bring you in, man. That's how it is.
So I always hated that weird
if you
stigma.
think about the pits back in the day, and I know it's changed now, the pits have gotten to where it's not about what it once was, right? It was about camaraderie, right? We were running around in a circle, but we weren't trying to hurt each other.
Yeah.
We were trying to celebrate something together.
Yep.
And the minute somebody fell, hands were out, and that guy was popped right back up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would just go round and round again. But no one was trying to hurt anybody. No one was throwing punches or elbows like kids like to do now. They
The
think that's
hardcore
cool.
kids, bullshit hardcore
man.
kids.
But that was the days, man. You were doing this, and it was an experience, right? It was a group experience, and that's the same as wrestling. And that's why I love wrestling so much, because for the same things you're talking about, the metal community, it's all about acceptance, right? They just and most people that, not to say something a weird hot take or anything, but a lot of wrestling fans are misfits. Okay, they're people that aren't accepted in other elements of society, and they're accepted at the wrestling shows. No matter what the problems are, no matter what's wrong with them or what they're going through, they come to the wrestling show and that all goes away, right? They don't have to worry about the bills they have to pay. They don't have to worry about their crazy mom. They don't have to worry about whatever it is that they've got going on, maybe they're not that intelligent, or maybe they're not that attractive, and they don't have women in their life. All of that goes out the window when they come to the wrestling show.
Yep.
They're now in a community of equal-minded people that are sharing this experience with them, that are, just listening to me hype them up, and then having the matches, and they feed into it. And it's become cliche to say, but I don't believe it is cliche by any means whatsoever, that a good wrestling show is like 75 to 90% the crowd. Right.
Agreed.
There was a point in Vanguard where we were putting on some amazing shows. We were bringing in like Chikara guys left and right, and we were putting on these crazy, crazy shows to 10 people, and they sucked because there was no one there. I mean, it was phenomenal wrestling, but you didn't.
Jolly Green Giants, shitty Beatles. How are they? They suck.
Yeah.
And then you have, there's a Fed in Chicago that's put on some really big shows for a really long time, and they have fans that oftentimes tend to sit on their hands. So it's like you have to have both, right? You have to have great wrestling, and you have to have vocal fans. And that's one of the things that makes Freelance so special, is the crowd at Freelance. We can serve them shit on a shingle, and they will eat it up like it's a Kobe steak dinner, man.
There you go.
Like whatever we deliver to them, and we're not trying to deliver shit by any means.
Especially on a shingle. I mean, that's rough palate.
But like someone they've never seen before. Space Monkey was a nobody. Ethan brought him down, put him on a show, and at the that wasn't the Abbey at this point. We had moved on from the Abbey. But anyways, put him on a show, and the crowd ate it up. They turned him into a star here in Chicago. We did a show. I've told this story a lot of times, so I'll tell a really short version of this story because I've told it a bunch of times. We did our first Halloween show at the Abbey, and Nix hands me the card, and I'm going over the card, and I see that we're doing this gimmick battle royal. So we have like 30 guys doing a battle royal as if they are wrestlers from the past. So we had a Rock, we had a Kurt Angle, we had Martel, we had like all these guys from every era of wrestling. We had all of DX, and I look at this and I'm like, this is utter bullshit. Like, this is ridiculous.
That's how you really feel, Kirby.
I've told him this multiple times. On paper, it should not have worked. I was like, and I'm the guy who has to like bring it to him, right? So Nix doesn't have to present this to the crowd. I have to present this to the crowd. I have to make this seem like it's good. And I had no faith in it whatsoever. I thought it was a horrible idea. And I was like, oh, this is the end. We're done. I'm glad we got 3 or 4 good shows in because we just jumped the shark. Thank you, Chicago. Good night. We're out of here. And then as soon as the first person came out, and I think it might have been Marche Rocket as The Rock, the crowd acted like they were seeing exactly who he was portraying. And just going nuts. Like there was like women like salivating over whoever our Shawn Michaels was. And like, he looked nothing like Shawn Michaels. He was probably like a foot too short and was wearing a wig. Like this was crazy. We had Chico as Kurt Angle. Like what? Like he's Colombian and like he was Kurt Angle. It's like, what are we doing? But they ate it up. They acted like they were seeing exactly who they were seeing. That match could not have worked in many, many, many other places. There are some other places that could have pulled it off, but most places could not have because of the crowd. We didn't make that match work. You guys, the crowd, made that match work.
And Sren's been a lot more freelance shows than I have. I think, what have you been, like 3?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, I'm going to do a Budinsky and make a point if I can remember it because I thought of it like 15 minutes ago. My ADD is high. Chicago independent wrestling is very cool. Here I go on my fucking 10-minute rant.
Please do.
One of the reasons it's awesome is because each one of the promotions, a lot of the wrestlers are interchangeable to a point. Other than GCW, which is like a lot of blood and guts shit, so they have to kind of switch it up. It's not the same stuff because like Freelance has its storyline. I don't know enough about Zello. I don't know enough about Shimmer. But I'm sure that this is the same thing. I've been to a couple Freelance shows. I've been to a Warrior show. I've been to a Gali Lucha show. And because of the crowd and a little bit the styles, obviously the luchador styles are different, but now everybody can flip almost. But you're right, Kirby. The crowds are everything to the point where each promotion kind of has their own personality. And it's like the 2 heels and a face guys. They talk about everything's a buffet. Justin says the same stuff. You really can like if you ask your friend, like a buddy of mine that lived 2 blocks away went to my first Freelance show. And I was like, dude, just come with me. You live 2 blocks away. Fucking come to a wrestling show with me. He's like, I don't give a shit about wrestling. So we stopped at the beer temple, had like 4 beers. And then he was like, I'll follow you anywhere. And so
To the grave.
we went to the show. We were about an hour and a half after it started. And as soon as I walked in, like I didn't know Val Capone very well. But as soon as I saw her, she was like, hey, what's up? And she was super cool to me. And I had met her.
Val super cool. What up, girl?
Yeah, she's super cool. And it was weird. It wasn't weird. It was awesome. Freelance is the friendliest wrestling promotion as far as the wrestlers concerned, as far as the fans are concerned. Most of the time, if you're like shy when you go to like a new place and you're sitting in the background, at Freelance, there's a good chance within 2 hours, you are like trying to edge your way toward the front because everything is just so welcoming and everybody is so open-minded. It's super comfortable, but everybody's super open-minded about having a good ass time. I won't throw other promotions under the bus. There's another promotion that I won't mention where they throw some fucking kick-ass shit. And I hope I am not being an asshole because it's almost obvious who I'm talking about.
Well, you are a dick, so.
I am a dick. I'm the critical guy in our trio.
That's my job.
But the crowd is, like you said earlier, like sit on their hands half the time. And the people that are performing are performing monstrous matches. Now, I went to Gali Lucha show, and that was like super kid friendly, even though people were cussing in Spanish, and the kids that were there were Spanish, were Mexican, and they understand cuss words, but it was still super kid friendly. It was super interactive. All the wrestlers were awesome. They all knew how to play the crowd very well. It felt like a family atmosphere. And I sat down and, forgive me, I don't know anybody's name, but like
we saw Mecha Wolf.
I saw Mecha Wolf there. It was a completely different experience from Warrior, from Freelance, from, we went to AWA, we went to a GCW show. Like I went with these guys during the All Out like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, the Black Label, GC Dub.
Black Label, like I've been a Black Label show, and every one of these places has their own personality. So I wasn't lying. I've been talking for 10 minutes. They really do. You can actually
to wrap it up, Box.
I'm wrapping it up. You could actually pick and choose what you like. If you like if you like the Gali
craft
Lucha
beer,
atmosphere, man, you got it, and it's fucking fun. If you're not into that, don't go, because you got the freelance atmosphere. If you don't like it, go to the next one. But it is like you said, you don't worry about your life. And in a world, especially the last handful of years, where everything is about politics and what side are you on, and let's fight about it, even though we all got to pay our bills, we all got to feed our kids, we all got to try to get up in the morning and be good people
and watch wrestling.
Dude, this is why I got hooked. I'm the newbie. It is because I don't think about shit when I'm at a wrestling show. Nope. I don't think about shit when I'm watching
escape. Not the pool place either.
It just it's been great, and Chicago is so special.
Chicago's we've said a million times on this show. It's the mecca of modern day professional wrestling.
I'm so tired from talking now.
And I think AEW solidified that. I mean, obviously you have Tony Khan's Champagne Boy, but by really firmly planting their roots into the Chicago area and wrestling scene, and they're surrounded by, killer promotions like Warrior and Freelance and, we got Black Label out of here, but we'll toss them in the mix. And when you get to see shit like that, like Cody versus Matt Nix. What up, Matt? How you doing, brother? Amazing. Awesome. And to have that crowd support that showed up there, that was like Freelance Wrestling. It gives me chills right now just fucking thinking about it.
I was there, dude. I was there.
Loud you could hear it on TV. Like I went home and had to watch it that night because I was there too.
I wanted to know my TV. I was so happy, dude. I was like,
yeah. It translates right through, and you can see Cody stops for a second.
Oh yeah,
kind of gives
soaking it in,
smiles.
Makes that look. Yeah, it was really cool, man.
It was. It gave me goosebumps. I was there too, man, and like some people in our section were chanting that, and just hearing that in that building for AEW for Matt Nix, it was like, dude, this is what wrestling's all about. All inclusion. Like it doesn't give a shit what promotion you're in, who you are, anything like that.
We all got to work together.
Yes, we're all here to enjoy the show. We're here for wrestling. We're here to support each other and everyone that does these shows and anyone involved. So yeah, dude, that was a great moment.
Yeah, Freelance turning up, and the one the first show I went to was, man, it's been almost a year now, was the 2020 of Freelance Odyssey, January of this year. It's crazy how fast, and just the trajectory of this year after that, because like I was so stoked to go to more, and especially after the build up to everything that was happening with Ego and Kylie at the time, was done just perfectly well. It was 2 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours. I don't know the exact run time, but it felt like fucking 5 minutes, because it was so good. We got to go, me and Stratton got in there. We saw the Two Heels guys. I think we saw Val. I'm pretty sure we saw Val there. Did we see her
she's
that
there.
night?
She's at most shows, yeah.
And then, to see Matt and everybody and get to go upstairs and hang out with, Tom from I Illuminate and all the wrestlers and shit that we knew and talked to. And it was accepting. It was great. It was a great feeling, to be up there and to be hanging with, people that I consider a huge part of the Midwest wrestling scene, and to be included into that. It's just, dude, words can't describe that. And to have that time, it goes back to, 15 minutes ago when we were talking about the metal community and how accepting they are and how you can have this outside perception, and, judge not lest ye be judged and get punched in the face. But it's different. The people that are in the metal community and in the wrestling community, those are similar, but it's different how the outside world looks at all of us, because it's so open armed and welcoming. And it really is. And unless you're like a piece of trash that shows up just to troll and start shit, then,
bricks.
Yeah. But the cool thing about that is that community is really protective of each of their own, so if you get someone like that, trust me, ain't one motherfucker going to hesitate not to handle shit, however it needs to be handled. So it's just, I love it, man.
The beautiful thing about the wrestling business and, going back way back, you know how protective the wrestling business is of the business. Now that, you know, that doesn't exist quite as much, right? Because of, you know, the internet and you guys. but
that's why with me, Kirby, it still feels like such an honor because coming, you know, I'm 38, dude. I've been watching wrestling since I was like fucking 5. And I've been an extreme dork about it for many 20, 30 years now. The first time I was in a locker room, even an indie locker room, that felt so sacred to me because I know how hard that was for people back in the day, like you're alluding to get in to do that. It didn't happen, you know?
But when you show up at shows, and I don't believe this is that revealing, or else I wouldn't say it, but the love between the wrestlers who, you know, may have seen each other last week or may not have seen each other for 5 years, or even the staff like myself, the amount of hugs, and this is the craziest thing. I don't think people would think this about professional wrestling, but the amount of hugs I get on a regular basis from big burly men, you know, big manly men that are beating each other up in spandex. These guys love to hug each other, and it's amazing. It's almost inexplicable. Like, I don't even know how to really put the level of love and care into
camaraderie
this,
too, you know,
except to say it goes back to that whole idea. And I know people know about this now, like the loose handshake. Cause I know, you know, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, you know, tried to change that because they didn't believe that was manly, right? Everyone knows about that. It was in Shawn Michaels' book. And the whole idea of what that handshake was all about was it was a loose handshake because it was letting you know, I'm going to take care of you, right? I'm, you know, the way I'm shaking your hand is the way I'm going to take care of you in the ring. I'm not going to hurt you. And I think it's because of that. I think that's where all this love comes from, because you're putting your body on the line. You're putting total, complete, utter faith in that other guy across the ring that he's not going to hurt you. You know, that you're going to be safe. And, you know, I think that just spawns this camaraderie, this brotherhood. And I know people like to speak really ill of the wrestling brotherhood, the whole brother, you know, protecting bad people and all that. And it, you know, yes, that happens. It exists, whatever. But there is so much good about it too. It really is. Well, that's
everywhere.
There's in the world I feel better than in a wrestling locker room.
And there's a good old boys club in everything that you do.
Sure.
There's politics and bullshit in all walks of life. That's like when the speaking out movement and all that shit happened, I was very much like, okay, I'm accepting it. I'm cool if people have real trauma that they've been through and they're letting it out and, you know, working through that and getting rid of the wicked that don't need to be in this business. I'm all for that. But I didn't want a lot of people seem to take it the wrong way. Like it was only happening in professional wrestling. Like it's, you know what, this is wrestling, such garbage. Cause if you took a look at the people in your neighborhoods and did some real homework, you might find the real ugly. It's not just in wrestling, you know, that's the kind of shit that pissed me off. I mean, it's everywhere, you know, but like we said, there's a very welcoming community nowadays in wrestling it wasn't like that back in the day. It was very much, you know, closed door. And, you know, I remember hearing stories from guys like even back in the day, like Bill Apter and Paul Heyman that had hard times and had to lie through their teeth just to be able to get in the locker room or get an interview or a picture of somebody, you know, like where nowadays, like I said, I mean, Shred show up to Freelance. We just go walk up into basically the locker room with everybody. Like, you know,
that's
you read back in the day, you know, I've read a lot of books, and Hammond Civic Center was one of these places that had 2 separate locker rooms. Yeah. So the heels and the faces came out of 2 entirely different locker rooms. So it was all about doing everything you can to uphold that mystery, right? The guys were never allowed to drive together. Like they had to drive separately. They couldn't be seen together.
Except for the Sheik and Duggan.
Well, yeah.
Oh. Yep.
But yeah, so there was, you know, but the thing about it today, and it's just like everything else, movies, television, you have to be willing to suspend your disbelief. And you get to a point where you do so and it's automatic, right? You don't even think about it anymore. It's not like okay, I need to go and make sure that I believe this. No, you just, as soon as it happens, you do. Like, and we're not talking about unintelligent people. We're not talking, it's people think, well, how can you believe something so fake? It's all fake. Everything's fake. The
You ever hear comic book nerds argue over shit?
Right.
Reality TV is fake, for crying out loud.
And I can tell you that firsthand. When I did America's Got Talent the first season, they taped that, and when I went back and watched it, all the audience reactions were from other acts. Like that was not the audience that we performed to. Like, yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I remember that little girl giving up the X. It wasn't during us, but that's
she throwing the X. Someone get hurt when you guys fall up there. What the fuck?
Yeah. Hey, trainers in the back. Get on the headset.
Fat guy down. No, but it is. It's all fake, man. So much of our world is not real. So, but when you allow yourself, especially as a kid, when you allow yourself to suspend this disbelief, wrestling is magical. It's absolutely magical. It creates these memories. I have a daughter who's been going to shows with me now for about 3 or 4 years. She's 9, and just the memories it creates. And she'll bring a little friend here, this one and that one, and they're blown away. We put a wrestling show on in my front yard. She wanted a wrestling show for her birthday. So I hired Merle, the same guy who puts the ring up at every show that you guys go to. I hired Merle. We threw a ring up in my front yard. I had some of the Golly guys come out. I had Sean, I had C-Red come out, who's a local Chicago staple. Isaiah and Kylie showed up and did a little spot with my daughter in the ring. And the crazy thing is, like, the adults, like, were getting into it, like adults who had never seen wrestling before, and they were into it, and they're like, this is actually pretty cool. And that's the whole thing, that people like to judge without actually taking part, right? It's just like food. Like, I don't like that. Well, have you ever tried it? Yeah. No. Well, then take a bite. Don't just say you don't like it.
Right. And I know the struggle, brother. I know the struggle. I got sushi. That's just how it is. And it's and real quick, I wanted to touch on some, backtracking several minutes when you were talking about Zappa. It was the same thing with him. And I love that you're a huge Frank Zappa fan. My oldest son's middle name is Zappa. I got to meet Dweezil. We saw him at the Radisson back in 2015. He dedicated a whole show to my son. And it was
very cool.
Super intense, super amazing. But he was another one of those guys that, like, he was very polarizing. People either loved him or hated him. There was no like real in between. And I think a lot of that was just, people were being judgmental by how he looked, and, music being overly complicated to just the standard, pop listening culture. Well, I like the Beatles and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't handle Zombie Woof if, here's something like that. If you're gonna, But just real quick, take me back into your discovery, because this intrigues me, because I'm a huge Zappa nut, man. Into Frank Zappa.
So my uncle and a good buddy of his,
Uncle Remus,
were really, really, really into alcohol and drugs. Like,
as Frank wasn't too, which a lot of people find hard to believe, because he was so out there and so like just genius. It's like, you got to be on drugs. I don't fucking like drugs.
And my uncle's buddy Roy, who ended up dying from an overdose eventually, at one point came over to my uncle's house and brought over this record, and the record player was mine. He's like, kid, you got to put on this record, man. And so, I'd try anything, man. So I put the record on, and it was the Mothers of Invention, and, Hey Joe and all that,
Yes.
It was just, it was mind blowing, because it was so different, and it was like cacophonous at times, right? The way that they manufactured sound and such. And then shortly after that, he came out with a VHS. I think it was called Baby Snakes.
Yes, I own it on DVD.
Yeah, and it had all this like stop snakes. Yeah. And it had all this like weird, crazy, like stop animation stuff.
Yes,
on it.
Yes.
It was so cool. And I just really got into that stuff for a good couple of years, man, because it it was groundbreaking. It was so different. And it's interesting. A lot of times when people will meet me and hear my last name, which is Van Vliet, they'll often mishear it as Van Fleet, and they'll think I'm related to Captain Beefheart because his last name is Van Fleet or something very, very close to mine. So I'll have people like, are you any relation to Captain Beefheart? I'm like,
that would be dope.
I'm like, you know who Captain Beefheart is? Like, that's all that matters. We're gonna have a great conversation after this.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Zappa and the Mothers was some pretty cool stuff, man. I never saw them, of course. I don't think I even got close to ever seeing them. But and I love the kids too, man. Dweezil and all them.
Have you seen?
They had multiple like game shows and stuff.
Yeah, they did a lot of shit in the early '90s, like with MTV. If you guys go on YouTube and watch, there's actually a video of Dweezil playing guitar, and they do Crazy Train and a young Jack Black on vocals.
Very cool.
And he's playing, I believe in that video, he's playing fucking for you Van Halen fans out there, the Rasta guitar from I think from Women and Children First. That album, that's the one he used to record that. A little music knowledge for you guys because I'm just so full of bullshit.
It's a beautiful thing, man.
It is. But Kirby, brother, I got a recommendation for you. So Alex Winter, who you guys might know as Bill from Bill and Ted and that one weird looking vampire from the Lost Boys. He just did a documentary on Frank Zappa that I was a part of the initial Kickstarter like 5-6 years ago to get this thing off the ground and save the vault. That thing's out right now. It's simply just called Zappa. And you can get it on all streaming platforms. I know I gave Stratton some homework and had him watch it.
I watched it. I rented it. I watched it.
He hated it.
It was good.
Dude, I think if you're a Zappa nut, you'll like it. I mean, there's some stuff I thought they could have added some more into, but that's just how big of a fucking freak out.
When you see it at the end of the documentary, it's not a spoiler. They say he during his lifetime he actually had 63 albums that came out, and then posthumously. What the heck just happened? Sorry.
Another 60 or something.
Posthumously, it was like 53. So a 2-hour documentary barely scratches the surface of,
and his vault was vast of how much shit he didn't release. And they actually released his, so the album he was working on with this thing called a Synclaver, which is a weird fucking like computer music thing for anybody that's not familiar with that. Right before he passed in 93, he was working on this album. And they finally got, they in the vault, dude, his vault literally was it was insane. Everything, like he had video from the 60s, from the early incarnation of the Mothers up until his death in 93. And I mean, this dude did orchestral scores and had, orchestras that he was conducting along with all of his rock bands and different iterations of that. Had all the audio tapes, owned all the rights to his music, which was unheard of, back in the day. I know he had this little spat with Warner Brothers, and he basically like, hey, here's your fucking 4 albums. I'm out. I'm getting my own shit. And so much stuff in the vault from the 60s till he passed. And they finally, a couple of years back, just finished that record that he was working on right before he died. So it was very cool to actually get technically his real final release. I had like these Mongolian throat singers, which if you see the new Bill and Ted, they do a little bit that singing 8 octaves at a time or whatever the hell it was, like 100. Very cool stuff, man.
I mean, even guitar legend Steve Vai played with Zappa.
Yeah. Terry Bozzio, dude. Warren Cucurullo. It's hard to get it off. A lot of guys, man. Napoleon Murphy Brock, a lot of great musicians that jam with that guy. So everybody listening, please take a little detour and check out Frank Zappa. You might like him.
I don't know shit about Frank Zappa, and I watched the documentary, and I really enjoyed it.
You liked it.
I liked it. So if you're like a super fan, you'll be drooling the whole time.
It's genius.
It's all footage. Like the entire thing is, so it's interviews of people that like his wife and other people that don't have a lot of time in where they did like interviews. I don't know what you call that when you cut to just them in a room. But 90% of it, 90% of it is old footage of him.
Interviews.
All shit from his vault. Like I said, he had Alex Winter had access to this stuff, and
cool.
They raised $1 million or $2 million from the Kickstarter was just to preserve that stuff, because over time, shit sitting from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, that stuff, it deteriorates.
Yeah.
So you have to digitize that, and it's just, dude, there's stuff with him and John Lennon. They were talking about like all the British and all the European musicians that wanted to come over, like in Black Sabbath was included in this too. Like I remember reading something where Tony Iommi and Ozzy were like huge fans of Zappa, and they're like, Tony and Ozzy were like trying to get him coke and stuff. So like, nah, I don't fuck around with that. And they're at dinner, and I think this was in Chicago. And then like towards the end of the dinner, like Zappa's like, hey, you got any of that coke or whatever? It's like, oh, I thought you didn't do it. It's like, oh no, it's from one of my band members. It's like, you just told us that you don't let them do that shit while they're on tour with you. It's like, dude, just everybody wanted to meet him because of his work ethic, which was, dude, second to none. Out of anybody in any profession that I've seen, this guy was, I mean, you take it for what you will. You sacrifice a lot, as a lot of these wrestlers know. When you're on the road, especially with WWE for pretty much the whole damn year. I mean, Zappa was like within the same way, even when he was home. I mean, he was on the toilet taking the shit, and he was writing, composing, and not just bullshit. He's actually writing musical notes, kids.
Me too.
Pun intended.
Insane the work ethic this guy had.
I do the same thing.
You mentioned coke, and that's a great segue. Off of the
Lay me down some rails, boy, but don't put me in jail.
No, it's actually a great circle back as well. You talked about the New York Dolls.
Yes.
Years after the New York Dolls, I was in LA over New Year's, and I was there to see Sylvain. And so saw the Sylvain show, and it was amazing. And then afterwards, he's just like standing outside smoking a cigarette. And so I go up and talk to him for a while, and he's like, hey, you want to go do some coke? I'm like, no, man, I'm good. But I could have done coke with Sylvain. I guess that would have been a pretty cool story.
Oh, of course.
He probably remembered you for rejecting him because nobody else did.
Right? It's like,
I remember that dude that said no. I like that guy.
You're the only
guys are conformist cokeheads.
I've asked over 100,000 people. You're the only one that said no. I like it.
Kirby, real quick as we wind down here, I want to get your take on what do you pay attention to as far as the major promotion scene going on with wrestling right now? What's your cup of tea per se?
AEW, absolutely AEW. Yeah. When my daughter and I started to try and watch wrestling together, and this is right when AEW, I took her to all the AEW stuff, and then they got the television deal. And of course, right at the same time, NXT ends up being on the same night, lo and behold. And so she had a choice to make, like, which one are you going to watch with daddy? Because there's only so much time in the world, right?
Yes.
And we want to think we can watch it all, and we can't. And she actually chose NXT for whatever reason, even though I was taking her to all these AEW shows, something about NXT was appealing to her. And I didn't mind that either, because I had so many guys that I've worked with and that were friends and, that were there too. So I'm like, I'm all about it, right?
Right.
Keith Lee and all those guys. So I'm like, I can watch that too. So we watched that, and her interest, it's still there, but it's not as rabid. She doesn't have to watch it on a weekly basis. So those shows started to stack up, and I was ending up with free time, and then I just went into AEW instead. And so now that's where I'm at. I'm about 3 weeks behind, but the AEW stuff, and I you can't avoid spoilers in this world, so I know what's going on.
Never.
But again, even with spoilers, you once you see it, it's still amazing.
I don't mind them because it makes me want to watch it more.
Surprise.
Yep.
I know there's, and I don't want to spoil for anyone else just in case, but I know there's a major debut last week, and I know what it is. And when I catch up to it in a couple days, I'm still going to mark out for it. I'm still going to go nuts for this person showing up.
I had a mini stroke. I was telling Bodie, because my girl's like,
was too.
Our baby's going to be on the 13th. He'll be 8 months old. And she's like, when something big happens tonight, don't you fucking freak out. Because usually I'm just, I had that, dude. I was doing that shit on mute. I couldn't. I was holding it. I'm like, "Urgh," like shaking and shit, and grabbing the couch. I'm like, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's how the moment was. And me and Stretton actually had the opportunity to talk about this, which when we end here tonight, I'll let everybody know about this. But on another show that's coming out the same day that this show drops, which is pretty cool. But that moment where Tony Schiavone, you hear him talking about this guy that's coming out that's had a history with TNT. It's just so amazing as an old school fan. And that's what AEW, that's why so many people have been brought on board with this, because they're giving wrestling to the wrestling fans. Now, is it a true alternative to WWE? Maybe not. Does it really have to be? No, because they're just giving you what you miss from those Mondays back in the day and maybe a little before that. And they're just blending it all up in the cup, throwing some of that new shit with it. And it's so damn tasty. That's why I don't get why people hate on it. There's a lot of haters, but people hate on everything. Yeah. So whatever.
Sure. I mean, have they made some mistakes along the way? Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But their growth has been impeccable.
There's storylines where they've, dropped the ball. There's things that haven't made sense, but there's so much that does shine. There's so much that they are doing differently, where they're giving you a mix of the old school and the new school, and they're not bringing these guys in to work. They're bringing these guys in, as managers and such, and even the fact that they have managers, something that
I missed
that Vince hates.
Man, there's only one in WWE. His name's fucking Paul Heyman.
Yeah,
and they don't even call him a manager. He's either an advocate or a special advisor.
Don't you dare say manager, you bastard.
And
don't call it a belt either.
We grew up with Blassie and Albano and Cornette,
Mr. Fuji,
and an early
Bobby the
Paul
Brain,
Heyman
the Wizard,
Heenan.
Yeah, we grew up with all these guys, and they were just as much a part of this as the guys were. And now they don't want to take away from the workers, and I don't get it. And
it doesn't make
one of the
sense.
things I think is amazing about AEW is bringing back the manager. I think that's awesome, and the fact that they're doing it with guys from my youth, even better. Cherry on top.
Yeah, I got to piggyback on your story, Justin, real quick. With that, debut of someone special. I was in the kitchen and I was cooking, and I marked out, and Sarah was right there, and she's just laughing. She's like, "Oh my God!" She's like, "You're going nuts." And I said, "Holy shit!" really loud, and I can hear my 6-year-old Grayson. He comes running in. He's like, "Daddy, don't say that." I'm like, "Grayson, it's freaking Steve."
Like you throw your kid in the closet. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, and he turned around. He's looking at it, and I'm like holding his shoulders. I'm like, "Dude, look who it is." And he said his name too, because I'm saying his name. And then a couple of days ago,
he was in a band called The Police, I heard.
He was. Yes, he was. Don't turn out the red light. So, but no, there you go.
But for some reason, he always liked to come out to Metallica.
Yeah, I don't know why. But my 6-year-old was watching YouTube clips of that and AEW a couple of days ago. I watched that
debut like 4 or 5 times.
Holy cow. But afterwards. Like he's getting into wrestling kind of like AEW, because that's what Daddy watches, and that's kind of like AEW did like for my 6-year-old. Now I'm like, he recognized somebody that I grew up watching, and that was an icon.
Great. That's a great fucking feeling.
Awesome it's a great feeling.
I know it. Kirby knows it. Unfortunately, my oldest boy, when I was taking him to Warrior shows, and he was having a good time, and then he even went to an MLW taping with me, and I'll give that boy, I'll give him fucking credit, because you know about their tapings. How long those fucking things are? We were there for like 5 hours.
Oh my God.
And this kid just stuck it through. But I think that was probably what killed him. And then he's getting older. He's gravitating more towards football. But and that's fine. That's fine. We had our little thing, and I got another one now, so I can always teach him about the ways of the ring. Yeah.
And hey, y'all.
But man, you sit in the one, the MLW TV tape, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, 5-6 hours.
30th episode of Fusion,
like 9 or 10 at the time.
Especially if you're in the bleachers with no back support.
Oh man, your butt fell asleep, dude. You just pooped your pants.
We were in the chairs by the ring, and even still, it was like, man, these chairs are killing my ass. There's no cushion. I should have brought one of those Hobart Football Booster Club seats.
I'm sweating very hard.
But Bodie, you talk about having that connection with your son. Like for my daughter and I, even though, like I said, she gravitated a little bit towards NXT, she still loves AEW. Like, and if I take her to a show, she's going to have an amazing time.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that connection was fostered around the indie stuff. But what really solidified the connection for her is I took her to Blitz was doing, Pro Wrestling Blitz was doing those baseball shows at the Thunderbolts games. And I went to one of those shows as a fan. I brought her because on that show was Cody Rhodes. Now this is pre-AEW.
Yeah.
This is his New Japan run. He just started his New Japan run. And so I took her to the show to watch some baseball and to meet Daddy's favorite wrestler's son. So for me, everything Dusty Rhodes,
the American Dream. Yeah,
he could do no wrong, man. The promos, the
elbows,
flamboyance. I mean, just everything he did was amazing. And so I wanted her to meet his son, and instantly he became her favorite wrestler.
Yes.
I was talking to the promoter for Blitz, Tony Scarpone, and he was like, "Oh, I should have contacted you." I'm like, "Why? What's up?" He goes, "I don't have a ring announcer for tonight." I'm like, "Well, I'm here as a fan, but I'll do it." I was trying to sound all cool about it too, right? I was totally trying to downplay. I'm like, I can do it for you, I guess.
I got nothing going on.
Everybody's got a prize.
And Cody Rhodes is on the show, so I'm marking out inside. I'm like, "Oh yeah, whatever, I'll do it for you." But I have to have my daughter ringside with me. I can't leave her on the other side of the barrier. She's got to be right at ringside with me. He's like, "Oh, I don't care. As long as you'll do it." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So at the end of the match, Cody is too sweeting everyone. He hadn't got the cease and desist yet. So he's too sweeting everybody, and the fans are too sweeting him over my daughter's head. And a young lady in the audience looks at Darby and says, do this, and shows her how to too sweet. So she throws it up, not knowing anything. She throws up the too sweet. He reaches down, grabs her, puts her on his shoulder, and marches her around the ring for like 5 minutes, sets her down, and walks off into the sunset.
Yes.
Like, insane.
You could die a happy man, I bet, dude.
Oh, dude, it was
that's
incredible.
great.
And then we're leaving a little bit later, and she says to me, she goes, "Daddy, I don't think I'll have another day like that in the rest of my life." Like,
wow.
That's the magic, right? I talked about it earlier. Yeah. When wrestling hits, when it does what it's supposed to do, it's
powerful,
magical. Man. It's powerful. Yeah, man. So 2 generations there, and I also love Goldust. Like, I was a huge Goldust mark too, because
me too.
He broke barriers, right? He was doing stuff that was just insane, and people were freaking out over what he was doing.
Loved it.
I even liked him when he was like ball gagged and looked like he'd come off MTV's Alternative Nation.
And the silver.
Yeah.
But so it's really cool to share that with my daughter. I love Dusty, she loves Cody, I love Cody. And Cody, say what you want about him, he does get some criticism as not being as far as a work rate guy, but his psychology and his promos now, promos are top notch, man.
And that's coming from a guy who had a speech impediment too. He had a really bad stuttering problem. So I mean, to work through that, just amazing. And look, real quick about Cody, WWE run, I hated him. I knew who he was. I love Dusty, but I couldn't stand him. I'm like, the legacy, all that shit.
Yeah,
wasn't a fan of it. It was
unremarkable.
Till he left and went to ROH and Impact and all the the indies and whatnot, and New Japan, hit the Bullet Club, till he realized who he was and his value as a professional wrestler, as the son of Dusty Rhodes, the next gen, the brother of Dustin, and
American Nightmare.
The kiss the ring deal, the cockiness, everything that came with it. I was like, holy fuck, I'm liking Cody Rhodes, because it was right around the time we started this show. And I'm like, I'm talking, I'm like, man, I'm like thinking to myself as I'm saying, I'm like, I think I fucking like Cody Rhodes now. Like, what's going on? And
don't run from your
feelings. He's a huge part, along with the Elite, of course. But why we have AEW now? Why we have something that, fuck it, I'm just gonna lay it down for all you smart marks. It is an alternative because there's so much out there. You don't have to watch WWE if you're not entertained by that. And if you are, that's great. That's fine. I'm not fucking knocking it because I just watched NXT War Games. I thought it was amazing. But it's just the main product doesn't do anything for me. AEW brings up all these emotions, and it's like you say, Kirby, it shows how truly powerful and organic professional wrestling can be. Not this manufactured, recopulation of just garbage. Like, here's a script. Go out there, read this, do this to the best of your ability. If you don't,
Say suffering succotash, for God damn it.
Yeah.
And now, Justin, put in perspective, what percentage of Dynamite has happened in front of no crowd? No,
more than with a crowd.
More than with, right?
So imagine when the crowds come back, it's going to be insane. Our brains are going to gush out of our heads because it's like, holy shit, because they've been able to nail, the power in the moments without a crowd per se. I mean, they got guys' talent mixed in or whatever on the sides, but like the moment where, a certain member of the Police debuted on Dynamite last week, that was insane. Could you have imagined that if that was a full crowd or even when Matt Hardy came, or
FTR?
Yeah.
Those first couple months, I say this is probably one of the stupidest takes I've ever had about professional wrestling, but those first 8 weeks of shows right after we went into lockdown and there was no crowd and they started to use the other guys, I actually said, I don't know that I ever want to see wrestling in front of a crowd ever again. I don't know what it was. There was something still in a way super cool about it because now there was no cameras on the fans. It was hyper focused on just what was happening in the ring, and there was something really cool about it, and I know we have to have it in front of fans again because it's a money-making venture and it has to go back to that way. But I feel there was something really cool about the way they did it. And I didn't watch any of the no fan stuff with the WWE. I don't know how that went. I heard it wasn't good. And then they did the wall of Titantrons or TVs or whatever it is. They did the Thunderdome.
Welcome to Thunderdome, man.
But no, there was something still really cool about it. It was kitschy. It was different. And, even though they were still sometimes playing to the crowd that wasn't there and people were like, oh, that's stupid. I'm like, no, that's hilarious.
It is. Totally.
That just added another level for me, man. But yeah, I've loved everything, and I love it all, to say I'm an AEW mark and I don't watch WWE doesn't mean I hate WWE. I have so many, again, friends and guys I've worked with there, Ali, and it's like I love most of those guys. I just don't watch the product. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be polarizing, guys. It's not. And I understand, sports does that. You love the Bears, you have to hate the Packers.
I love the Bears. I just don't like watching them.
Perfect example,
Yeah. I love the Bears. I just don't watch them.
One city, the amount of hatred between people that live in the same city. But wrestling doesn't have to be polarizing. You just don't watch it. You don't like it? Don't watch it.
Easy.
And I don't watch it, and I still like it. I just don't have time for it.
Exactly. It's not moving you like it once did. But that's the thing. And until they find that with you again, and that's fine. That's okay. Yeah. That's why it's great in 2020 that we have so much content, like you alluded to earlier, that you can't keep up with. Like professional wrestling is just nuts. If you take into account all the indie streaming services like IWTV and Power Bomb or Power Slam TV, whatever it is now, along with WWE Network and Honor Club and New Japan, all that shit. It's so much.
And now because of torrents and streaming sites, you don't have to trade tapes anymore. So guess what? You don't want to watch any of the new stuff? Go back and watch all the old stuff. Yeah. Now it's at your fingertips. You can sit right here at your keyboard and pull up, the Riot at the Hammond Civic Center.
I'm totally doing that tonight after this show. I already sent links.
You better have, you piece of shoe.
Giggity.
Kirby, one more question here, and then we're going to close this thing down. what has been, other than what you just told us with that moment with Cody Rhodes, and I might have just already answered my own fucking question because I'm a stupid idiot like that. See, Sredden, I got your back this week.
Get down, Mark.
Like a moron. What is your most memorable moment or favorite moment in the Chicago wrestling scene that you have been a part of?
Wow. There's a lot of them. And for me, it's been getting to work with a lot of those dream guys that I've been watching for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in the ring with Cody is probably the number one, but a close number two, and there's probably 10 things that are tied for number two. Announcing Minoru Suzuki.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding me?
We were there, brother. We were there.
Oh yeah.
I had to pass on working a freelance underground show that was also the first GCW show in Chicago so that I could announce Minoru Suzuki because they just accidentally went up against each other.
Right,
and it really was. They weren't trying to do it. And it just,
all them boys are friends. They're all cool.
What date you can get. And I'm like, sorry guys. And they understood, like they got it, so yeah, Minoru Suzuki. And it was really cool because I was talking to, and now his name's going to escape me. I am getting old, guys.
Steve,
British high flyer in Japan. Osprey. So I'm talking to Osprey, and actually he came and found me, and he's like, I need to smarten you up. Like, and I had already talked.
You start talking about a sexy pig.
Right. Hello. So I had already talked to Suzuki. I had already gotten his information, and he doesn't speak much English, or at least he doesn't like to show that he does if he does.
But he knows how to say paycheck, I bet.
I'm old. Yeah.
They all do.
So I got all this information from him already, and Osprey comes up to me and goes, hey, I just want to let you know that how to announce him. You have to wait until they do that whole car. Like, he goes, if you do anything before that, he's going to come after you, and he's going to try and hurt you.
Yeah. Yes. Real big, real hard, real stiff.
I'm good, man. Thanks for smarting me up. And I had met Minoru Suzuki in Japan. I took my family to Japan.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
What? That's awesome.
I saw Dominion in Osaka. I saw the second match between Kenny Omega and Okada.
Are you fucking kidding me? In person?
No.
That's your, come on, wrestling moment in Japan, right? Watching that shit.
So we saw that in Osaka on our second night in Japan. We spent 14 days in Japan. So on night 2, we saw Dominion in Osaka. And on our very last night, we saw New Japan at Korakuen Hall. And at the Korakuen Hall show.
Real quick off of that, I got to interject because I don't know any of this. What is like the money exchange rate like between American dollar and what are they using in Japan?
Is it the yen? I think it's the yen.
Yen.
It was comparable, man. A lot of people say Japan is incredibly expensive. I didn't find
That's what I've heard.
We found a lot of things to be cheaper. Like we did not spend anywhere near as much money there as we had thought we were going to.
Like going to that show to Dominion compared to, say, a WWE event of that magnitude.
Comparable, like almost the exact same. And we ended up not being able to. It's hard to get tickets in America. It's really, really hard to get tickets in America for the show over there. So we got tickets a day of. So we stood in line day of and had standing room only, and it was still amazing. But so I met Minoru Suzuki at the Korakuen Hall show on our last night in Japan, and I bought a shirt, and he signed the shirt, and I tried to get him to also sign a magazine, and he's like, no. And then he turns to the guy next to him and says something about me, totally talks shit about me, right? Like, and like not even trying to hide it, right? He's pointing at me.
Kirby's Adventure.
Pointing at me while he's talking to the guy next to him. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of Japanese speaking people. But he's like, and he's pointing at me, and the other guy's laughing. And I walk away. I'm like, Minoru Suzuki just talks shit about me. That's fucking amazing.
Real dick. Sweet.
But no,
Yes.
he's an intimidating presence, man. He is something else. But yeah, years later to get to announce him was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So that's, besides working with Cody, Minoru Suzuki is probably one of my absolute favorite moments. And we could do a whole show on just my moments.
What you just gave me an idea.
Blessed to do.
That's gonna happen.
Right on, man.
It's a shoot.
Part two.
Hell yeah. Totally down for that. It ain't Kirby's adventure for nothing. We've already got almost 2 hours here. We're fucking,
Part two.
We barely scratched the surface. So we're definitely going to do a part two.
When you texted me earlier and you're like, we're going to go about 45 minutes. I'm like,
It never.
Yeah, have fun with that, brother. Try and get me to talk for
Good
over
luck.
45 minutes. Good luck.
Well, it never happens like that. And Sren can attest this, and he's going to be like, oh, well, God damn it, I got all this shit. And there's really nothing to edit. But, like when I start doing these shows and like interviews, it's kind of an interview. I hate calling it that. It's more or less just having you on the show and
Conversation.
we're talking shit.
Yeah.
That's like what kind of gives us our unique spin on this whole wrestling podcast.
You're watching
game. It's like,
perspectives.
yeah, just
The first show I did was
Whoa.
with the guys from Wrestle Talk and Randomness also did Let's Talk About Wrestling, and I did one of those, and I think we went 3 hours, and like it easily could have kept going. They're like, we should probably stop. I don't know if anyone's going to listen for 3 hours. They had
right.
to put
People's
it out.
attention spans are short, man. Even the diehards.
They had to release it as 2 separate episodes because it was so long. And
Dude,
then
we did a 5-hour episode one with my buddy. I went to Mania in Louisiana, and it's hated that. He did a fantastic job though of cutting it 5 hours into 2.5.
Wow. You just cut out every other word, so it's just you go then
Right? It's like the Japanese like voiceover shit from the old kung fu movies. We had a great time. But yeah, so dude, we're totally gonna have to do this again, Kirby. And real quick before we exit, it's been a fucking honor and a privilege to have you on here and to get to know you a little better and have our audience get to know you a little better. Because dude, you're a great voice. You do your job very well. You get me fucking pumped, man. And like I said, I've seen you at Freelance, Black Label, Warrior, and I watched The Collective, which some else we didn't unfortunately get to touch on this time around, but we will next time. You did a great job for that too, man. So
Thank you.
You're doing a lot of things, dude. I'm super proud for you and your family and what, all the moments you've had in professional wrestling, and you will continue to have. It's awesome. It's like a brotherhood on here, man, with the JP Dub, dude. I feel your energy, your vibe, and it really connects, dude. And it's so super cool. And to hear all your stories, that's what we're all about, man. It's just to be able to share those and to share, with the world your talent. And so everybody can check you out. If you watch anything on Fight, any of those promotions I just mentioned, you're going to hear Kirby's voice on there. Or I'm sure you're all over IWTV too in high spots. So everybody needs to check all those streaming platforms out. But speaking of that voice, things out, Kirby, where can people find you at?
So on Twitter at Kirby the Voice. Again, at Kirby Kirby the Voice. I don't do Insta right now. I just do Twitter. I have Facebook. Kirby Van Vliet on Facebook. You can find me there. But if you really want to, follow as
He's
far
Chris's
as like,
brother, right? Chris Van Vliet.
Yes.
Gave him.
When I saw that he was getting involved in wrestling, I was like, oh man, if I could just convince this guy that we're related and
piggyback, brother, piggyback.
Yeah, man, ride his coattails.
Do it.
No, yeah, Kirby the Voice on Twitter. Follow me there. I don't post as much as everyone does, but I definitely put some interesting takes out there from time to time. There it is. I see it on the phone.
I gotcha.
So yeah, man, come along for the ride. I love doing this with you guys. This business is really special. The connection, like I talked about, the connection with the wrestlers, the connection with the fans. And, one thing I didn't really hit on, and I'm not going to start a new topic, but I'm all
Go ahead. Fuck it. Here's another 2 hours, kids. Enjoy.
Right? I'm all, and I've said this in other places. I'm all about strengthening the product, right? I'm a tool. I'm like the ring bell, the ropes. I'm just another thing that the wrestlers can use to get over. And I'm also that way for the business. I'm just trying to better this business. You know, I may dress flamboyant and I might have a little shtick where I hold my notes long, but I'm not doing it for me. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to shine. A lot of people have to ask me my name because I almost never say my own name. Like it was, you know, we opened the show. Hopefully, I don't know if it worked or not, but with me introducing myself, that might be the first time I've ever said my own name on a microphone. Like I don't introduce myself. I don't say, "Hey, Kirby the Voice Alexander here with Freelance." It's not about that. It's about Freelance. It's about Warrior. It's about the guys. So for me to be able to do these shows and for you guys to care enough to put these shows out there and to have me on, and I can just enhance the business in another way and tell these stories, and hopefully there's people out there listening and having a drink and just enjoying, and maybe they're thinking, you know, again, that clip, we're going to go back to that clip. How many people are going to watch that clip tonight because I came on and talked about it? You know, I think that's cool. That's great, and that's magical. So for me to be able to share a piece of history and just promote the business a little bit more, that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm here to make this business better, and I don't know how long I'm going to have. You know, I'm not dying. You know, I could, but you know, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and I'm just going to try and do as much as I can to make this a great place and leave it in as good shape as I can.
Kirby, as one of my heroes, Mr. Jim Morrison used to say, "I'm going to get my kicks before the whole shit house goes up in flames." All right. Yeah. Right.
Mic drop.
That's right. Well, Kirby, once again, thank you, brother, for coming on. Thank you all for tuning in. Please, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell thingy. If you're watching on YouTube, share with your friends. Download, rate, and review on any podcasting platform. We're everywhere. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you guys are tuning in, we're also going to, me and Stratton are going to be a part of the hardest part of the ring. We'd like to send a thank you for him having us on his show called The Apron Bump, which is also available on all podcasting platforms. So we showed up there, we raised hell, I should say, and then we left. Because he was like, "What the fuck? You guys didn't even do what I wanted you to do." And we're like, "Yeah, but we're entertaining. Counts for something, right?" Thank you all for tuning in.
And next time will be even better. Kirby will be back, and we're going to get real fucking crazy because that's what we do.
Until next time, we love you. Keep it real. Keep it wet. Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up.
Yeah, I'm so wet for Kirby and his adventures. Me too.
All right.
You punched the camera too.
Right.
You punched the wrong camera.
Punch the wrong camera.
All right, here we go. Edit that in, okay? Stratton, if you don't do it, you're fucking
Don't do it.
You gonna do sex to me? Did you like that video? If so, be sure to hit like and subscribe and check out more killer content from your boys at Juice Pro Wrestling. Whoa, yeah!